Energy flows where the focus goes. What we focus on the most is what's going to perpetuate, whether it's good or bad or neutral.
Not all changes are easy to make. Sometimes change can feel overwhelming.
Information from within your body is information from your body that something needs to change.
We're not human beings that have occasional spiritual experiences. Rather, we are spiritual beings having a human experience.
Hey, man, Coach Free here. What is going on? What's happening, man? Today I have a group of people with me. We're just going to have a round table discussion around relationship. We got one more person that's coming in. He's a little late. I guess he's got relationship problems that he's trying to deal with. But but we're going to talk about relationships. We're going to talk about a myriad of subject matters dealing with a relationship. If you guys are watching this, if you have questions, just write them in the comments. We'll try to get you some type of answer, get you some answers. Today with me, part of the posse. All right, this is our little posse, right? There's like 13 of us, but today I only got 3 people with me today. Bobby Cobb, who is a very interesting guy. You're gonna love the Bobby Cobb. Y'all gonna love the deep voice and the conversation. We got Miriam, man. She's she's really into what she's doing. You're going to be able to feel her energy, feel her vibe once she gets to talking and really getting into what she does. And then we also have Sadhu. He's you're going to feel him too, man. These guys that's with me today, and then of course you got your favorite neuro leader and health coach, me, right? But anyway, there he is. There comes Sadhu. But so we're going to just start the discussion a little bit. What's going on, Sadhu? How you doing? What I'm going to do is Bobby, I'm going to let you introduce yourself, tell the people a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go to Miriam and then Sadhu.
Hi, I'm Bobby Cobb. I'm a liberation hypnotist, and the work that I do is helping people remove mental blocks, worn out mental models, ineffective thought loops that keep you stuck. And then once you become unstuck and life begins to flow through you, I help people work toward living the embodied realization that we are a spiritual being having a human experience beyond the pithy little bumper sticker that everybody likes. Yeah, bring it down, Malcolm, bring it down. Good to be on the show. Thanks for having me.
All right, Miriam.
I'm Miriam Siegel. I am, on paper, a clinical psychotherapist. I actually do a lot of the same things that Bobby does, but in a different way. I did some research I was actually looking for how best to end a psychotherapy session so that clients could get the most out of it, and discovered that simulating a situation before you actually have to do it in real life is a really good transition from thinking about it and dreaming about it to actually doing it. So I work with people like that. I work with embodiment, motivation, and getting you really deeply in touch with yourself, who you are, what you experience, and putting that into words and into the real life. And I'm a really nice person and a lot of fun. Thanks a lot for having me, Malcolm.
Sadhu, we'll talk about that niceness later. Sadhu.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. I just have a simple kind of a motivation that I developed in my own personal journey of healing trauma and wanting to be my best and all of that. And along the way of that journey, my simple desire and track in life just became, I just want to show up every morning to be my best, to be able to serve others the best I can. And so it's kind of led me on this exodus of learning exactly how to do that. And so I just meet people where they are. And then also I help people kind of get to apply a very simple technique of heart-brain coherence, which I feel is a super game changer for pretty much anyone. And then once people learn how to do that, then we go about applying that to their life where they are and really apply it to where they want to go. Somewhat like Miriam said, embodying something before you actually do it is one of the best ways to actually do it. And so that's one of the major things of my work, basically, is get really simple, help people get in touch with their power so that you can apply that power to what they want to be so that they can literally create the life and future that they prefer from the inside out. That's what I live for.
All right. All right. So for the people that's watching that don't know who I am, my name is Malcolm Free. I'm a neuro coach and a health coach. Use neuroscience based information to better my health coaching situation, to help people find balance in their lives, and also to understand a deeper reason as to why, things are being done or things are being said and how they affect you, as far as your neurons, as far as your body, brain, and health. So outside of that, man, the topic of today is relationships. And, the first thing that came to my mind when it comes to relationship is boundaries, right? And I think we talked about this a little earlier. And should boundaries be a part of a relationship? Bobby?
Yes, I think they need to be. That's part of good communication. But I'd like to start even a little bit before that, we're all four of us are focusing on getting to know ourselves and get grounded and centered. And I think from that standpoint, one of the things that happens is we develop a little bit more compassion for somebody else, a little bit more empathy for somebody else. And while boundaries are still necessary, I think that it enables us to forgive somebody when and if those boundaries are crossed.
That's actually an interesting point, if it's okay if I just come in here.
Yeah.
Because I was actually thinking about something else. I was going to ask you, what do you mean by boundaries? But there's something about knowing who, if I take myself as an example, who I am and who another is, where I stop and another person starts. In relationships, a lot of times it's not always clear who wants what and who's deciding, and it can get a bit messy and chaotic. So it's first to get in touch with who am I, what do I need, what do I want, and then being able to put that into some sort of communication to the other person. In order to do that, you have to know what how the other person can hear, is my experience, and sort of developing that language together. What do you need to hear? How can I give this to you? What do I need? How do I need to be heard also? And so boundaries become, in my experience, after a while, flexible. There's a trust involved in that. If I know that the person is willing to meet me where I am and as I am, then I don't need to fight for boundaries. I don't need to have very strong sort of boundaries necessarily, because there's a trust involved and a communication involved.
Right. Sadhu?
Boundaries, everybody can have their own definition for everything. And so first, I feel people in general would do themselves a great favor by really clarifying their relationship with themselves and really being true to that before they start interacting with other people, or as a kind of a pillar of interaction with other people, that one's sense of self and one's definition and commitment to oneself is really, really super clear along the way. And then boundaries, I feel that if two or more people just really kind of, to have a discussion of like what their agreements are moving forward, then maybe that will cover the boundary thing. What are our agreements to one another? moving forward. You know, whether it's romantic or business or otherwise. You know, that's my take on the topic.
Right. For me, is when I deal with people in relationships, you know, so I always go back to Maslow hierarchy of needs, and I think everyone needs to reach that point of self-actualization for themselves, right? You know, so they should be able to cover that themselves before they really engage in a relationship, and because you have to know self, right, before you get into all of this other thing, because if not, you grow dependent on that other person to supply whatever that is. So when it comes to boundaries, I think, you know, as an individual, right, you know, it depends on where that person is, right? Where is that person at, and what is that person's expectations as far as the relationship and as far as their life? So from that, you know what I'm saying, you look at when it comes to, like, you start talking about relationships, we just talked about boundaries. So how much of oneself should one give in a relationship? Anybody can tackle that one.
I want to almost just kind of continue your thought that you have there, because what I've noticed in the healthiest relationships is that when we come into them realizing, you know, we all have the thought of getting to know ourselves, being grounded and aligned, and once we realize that we are whole, that we don't need anybody else, that there's no hole in our life that's going to be filled by somebody else, then being able to give of ourselves fully into a relationship suddenly becomes a whole lot easier.
My experience is also that, like, just from the self-actualization point, it's kind of hard to be completely self-actualized. I mean, is anybody ever completely self-actualized before we die? I don't know. I can't speak for that. But I think a lot of times people go into relationships, and relationships reveal where a piece is missing. If I feel a lack somewhere, it shows up in the relationship, and then I have an opportunity with whichever person I'm in the relationship with, whatever kind of relationship it is, to grow and to learn. And the person in the relationship with me, or people in the relationship with me, also have the chance to grow and discover. And so the self-actualization is kind of like an ongoing process throughout life and with different people in different relationships.
Yeah, let me jump in real quick. The only thing about that is, for me, you know what I'm saying, is in most cases, in some cases, right, you know, you not having that identity of who you are, or being in that state of self-actualization, that other person might not have the patience to grow with you, or they, you know what I'm saying, because of, you know, what they've been through in life, what they've gone through in life, you know what I'm saying, and they're trying to reach their point, you're trying to reach your point, and then it's irritating to both sides. So, you know what I'm saying, that's I don't know what that is. That's like a bad space to be in, especially when you're both trying to grow in what you believe in, but this other person is looking at you like, okay, come grow with me over here, when you're trying to be over there.
Well, isn't that part of the self-actualization process then? Also, is knowing where I need to go and not need to go. And also, sometimes I think pain is there to show us exactly what we need. So if a relationship seems to be not working, and there are some self-actualization problems or lacks, and it shows up, it's like, okay, this is so uncomfortable. I either need to leave or I need to do something about it. And then who do I need to start with? Usually me. So I see it as an opportunity, actually, that pain can teach me a lot. Discomfort can teach me a lot. And if I'm willing to learn that and put myself out there, a relationship can change quite a bit and become quite magical.
Yeah, if we take the perspective that there is no other, you know, and invite that perspective into all of our relationships, then you know, feel that can open up a lot. If we approach that there is no other, then we're in relationship, you know, with everything and all things at the same time. Relationship really is kind of the main identity of what we're doing. You know, we're in a relationship with the earth, we're in a relationship with each other and with ourselves. And so it's all sort of self-defining, actually. And so, you know, if one can kind of take that approach and bring that into an intimate relationship or bring it into a business relationship, you know, then, yeah, see what happens.
All right. So, you know what I'm saying? When we get into, you know, deep discussions about relationships with a partner, and you realize that, you know, this isn't going to work, right, in this relationship. What would be a proper route to go instead of just, you know, just walking away from it or whatever the case is? How do you exit this relationship without all the negative energy?
I don't think there ever is exiting a relationship. There's a reframing it. You know, our relationship is going to continue like this, and what's going to be my part in it, what's going to be your part in it, even if it's I'm never going to speak to you again or I hate your guts. You know, well, that's how it's going to move forward, as I can hear your truth and here's mine and here's how it will move forward. You know, so I don't believe there's ever an ending of a relationship. There's just a redefining of what it is.
Bob?
I really like the sound of that. Sorry, go ahead, Bobby.
I like the sound of that as well. And I think it is elegant when, you know, if a couple is together and they realize that it's not working, and assuming that that is a mutually agreed upon conclusion, then there is the opportunity to continue to move forward, still be friends, still share the love that you had with each other at one point, but just maybe not the intimacy and the deep connection that you've got. But when we are really, you know, if we're working from a high level of emotional intelligence, then, you know, there's an opportunity to continue the relationship moving forward.
So just continue the relationship without sex.
Who said?
Well, you know, some relationships are like that. I work a lot with people who've experienced trauma, and sometimes when it comes to trauma, people get stuck. Sometimes reliving it or rehashing it, can't get past it, don't know what to do. And relationship in that sort of context is often needs to be worked on by the relationship to oneself, the relationship to the other person, and the relationship to the trauma. And this can be like long after the person is gone. I mean, it can be a person who just showed up suddenly, did something and left, or it could be this can have gone on for years. But whatever it is, it's who am I and how am I experiencing myself? How do I experience the other person? Even if the person is gone, the person could even be dead. And how am I experiencing the trauma? And a lot of times it's, what's my relationship with myself? Am I berating myself? Am I treating myself badly because I should have known better? I'm telling myself all of this stuff. I should have been stronger. I should have known what to do. I never should have done this, whatever. There's a lot of things that we put into who we think we should and shouldn't be. And then there's the other person, the jerk who did that or did that, and not seeing that there's probably a lot of other underlying layers. That person could have had a really bad experience, him or herself, and doesn't know how to deal with it. And so it manifests in life as a boundary crossing or whatever. And then there's the trauma itself. It's like I had this horrible experience. What's my relationship to the experience? How can I reframe my relationship to the experience so that I can take learning from it, and it becomes then a supportive relationship. All of these relationships become supportive and open and growth relationships instead of negative relationships that I carry like a heavy sack on my back and that stop me from living and breathing and expressing myself honestly and deeply in life and with joy.
Okay.
Yeah. I've got something I'd love to add to that. In hypnotherapy, we have a phrase that it's never too late to have a good childhood. And, you know, the relationship that we have with our parents very often, it is something that we carry with us into adulthood. I had a client that I worked with about a year ago who he had a very difficult childhood. He had a very traumatic relationship with his father, who is still alive. The client was in his late 60s. The dad was 17, got a girl pregnant in high school, and had a kind of a rough temper when the client was young. And in trance work through regression, we went back, and the client looked at his dad and was just observing the fact that here my dad was 20, 21 years old, and hadn't had the opportunity to go to college because he got married and had a kid, and was working in a very blue collar oriented job. Money was tight, and just made such an interesting shift in perspective, and released a lot of that trauma that had been built up over such a long period of time. I spoke to him about a month ago and just asked him how things were going. And he said, the most amazing thing in my life today is the fact that I'm madly in love with my dad. And that was really the greatest gift that I got from the work that I did with you, him speaking to me.
Okay, so Sadhu, you're into the heart focused. When it comes to a relationship, right? Where does heart focus come into play as far as in a relationship?
I feel it's kind of it's an ongoing asset. It's an asset to whomever is going to experience that state, because physiologically it's a very there's a lot of benefits to it. Emotionally, there's a lot of benefits. Mentally, there's a lot of benefits. And so if one person experiences that state of awareness and that state of being, there are a lot of very positive benefits from that. And it's cumulative. The more one feels that, it's like nutrition or anything else, proper sunlight and exercise and all of that sort of stuff. It just, it's cumulative, and it just makes you feel better, look better, and all that sort of stuff. Now, me doing it for me, that sort of shows up to my relationship with my children. It shows up to my relationship with my wife, and I'm kind of existentially sort of a oneness sort of perspective kind of guy anyway. And so if I'm doing this for me and I'm experiencing all these benefits, and then it's actually benefiting everyone I'm connected to by default. Now, if I go in specifically and kind of log, okay, I'm going to focus on communication with my wife. I'm going to focus on just really kind of anticipating her needs before she has to speak them. Or like my children, I'm going to anticipate their needs before they speak them to me. Or I'm just going to step up being present with them. These are things that can happen within my awareness from that heart-brain coherence, which have happened. And I notice it in clients and other people as well. It's a feedback I get. And so when two or more people experience that heart-brain coherence together, kind of intentionally, then the effects are magnified and multiplied. It's not sort of hearsay. It's not just, wow, that sounds good, but it's quantifiably, true. That's what happens. And so my wife and I were on a habit of doing this heart-brain coherence meditation every day for a while, and we're still working out sort of timing. And so I did notice that when we were both doing that, it definitely did increase all of the positive qualities that we can identify that we want to step more into. It gave us more resilience and leverage to deal with things that were on the negative or shadow side, which we're also aware of and doing our best to work with. And so all in all, that heart-brain coherence for an individual is really elevating and uplifting. And for two or more people that participate in that together, or even individually, and just sort of bring that to the table when they're working on things specifically, it is what it is. It's just a powerful leverage.
Okay, so Miriam, on a psychotherapeutic type of thing, right? What would have to happen in order to help someone, get to that point of trust, or get to that point of, well, we'll just say to that point of trust in a relationship on a psychotherapeutic type of way?
Well, trust, just to simplify it, trust is kind of two things. Trust is a choice, and it's a muscle. So choice sometimes is no matter what's going on around me and how I feel, I choose to trust that I'm okay in this situation. If I'm in contact with myself, I can feel that I'm safe or check how I feel. And if I don't feel safe, I can look around and notice if that's just coming from me or if the situation around me is actually potentially dangerous. And I'm not talking about reckless choice to just trust somebody without really taking stock of what's going on. I'm actually talking about the opposite. I choose to go into this situation trusting that I can handle it, trusting that I may learn something that I need to learn, trusting that it may hurt and I can deal with that as well, trusting that I may experience joy and I can also handle that, because not all people are comfortable with joy. There's the other side of it as well. Again, to simplify, there's the muscle. Trust is a muscle. So we train. And you're a neuro guy, you're a brain guy. And Sadhu was just talking about doing exercises with his wife. There's this training of the way we are. So the choice to go into a situation and trust, that's one thing. But when I choose it and I choose it and I keep choosing it and I keep learning that I can handle things, I train my muscle. I train my muscle to trust, and I train my muscle to see myself as strong, as mastering, as coping. And then trust becomes easy because I'm not really trusting the other person, I'm trusting me. It's about trusting me. So anybody who seems to have trust issues, they say they have trust issues, I go, well, we're going to go to the trust gym and we're going to work on that muscle, because that can be strengthened like any other muscle.
Nice.
Yes. So Bobby, you're into the energy and energetic and all of this kind of stuff, right? So on that level of energy, right? If one person's energy is positive and outgoing and the other person, because of whatever they've been through in life, they're in the negative, there are a lot of negativity there. They've gone through a lot of different things. How is that energetically going to mesh?
Well, I guess it depends on each individual situation, but my experience has been the more solid somebody's grounding is, and the more that they're aligned and centered, the greater the likelihood that the vibration that they're sending out is going to entrain that other person to come in. And so, particularly in relationships, people have the ability to really trigger each other. It's like where we know where every little raw nerve is centered, and intentionally or unintentionally, we seem to have a gift for stepping on those nerves. And if one person can recognize that the other one's just having a bad day, that they're not a bad person, that they don't have bad energy, they just don't currently have access to all of their innate resources and their resilience and their well-being and their peace and their love. And if we can stand there in the middle of that storm and still offer back unconditional love to the other person, my experience has been that just begins to melt away that negative energy, that negative vibration that the other person is sending out, that it's magnetically attractive. And it's not unusual that the negative person may just at one point, if that falls away, just kind of melt in and go, man, babe or dude or whatever, you're amazing. I've been rough. I've been having a bad time. And I look at you, and the only thing that I ever get back is this unconditional love. And I just want to tell you that I appreciate you.
Right. On a neuro end, we have this thing that we have it's called mirror neurons. And in relationships, these mirror neurons play a key role in releasing chemicals in the brain, releasing chemicals throughout the body that make you feel good about the relationship, that make you feel good about, being in that relationship, being around that person in that relationship. But you also have, because thoughts are energy, words are energy. And if the thoughts are positive about the relationship, the words that come out will be positive, And the mirror neurons will also be positive in that relationship. There's a lot going on in that area, within the realm of a relationship. It's more than just, oh, I like him, I like her, and let's get together and do this, right? There's a lot of different things, especially when you get into your hormones, you get into all of these different things that's going down, because a simple touch passes chemicals from one body to the next. A simple kiss passes chemicals from one person to the next, or raises the level of certain chemicals, which make you think, right? Like, this is where I need to be. This is where I want to be. This is where I feel safe. And when you take away that safety net, then, that other person feels lost, or they feel abandoned. And so, so how do you get to a point that you try to stay, providing that security, even though you're going through all the financial problems, even though you're going through, the problems at work, you're going through the whole issues with corona, right? How do you stay focused to keep that level of security for your mate? How do you keep that? Sadhu?
Agreements. You just clarify those agreements. And my wife and I had agreements when we first got married, and they sustained us when we had children, and the children forced us into childhood coping patterns. Because like the scarcity, like, are we going to have enough money when the jobs changed and we changed locations? And so her security patterns came into play. Her coping security patterns came in. Mine came in. And then we really were masterful at kind of exacerbating them, because that's why we chose each other. We were a vibrational match. But we're also a vibrational match for our strengths, which we made agreements on previous to the children. And so such agreements were like, we're going to lift each other up even when we're down. We're going to do our best to grow individually and grow as a partnership so that we can serve these children as best as humanly possible. That was an agreement that we made. And so when the coping patterns kicked in, and it was heavy, and it did get dark, and shit blew up in my face, stuff blew up in her face, we did go at each other, there was distance, but yet at the same time, the strengths that we agreed on carried us through. And so, recently we've made new agreements, or we've sort of rehashed the previous agreements and say, okay, well, what were our strengths carrying us through that sort of stuff, and what agreements do we have moving forward? And so again, for me, it's consciously kind of making those agreements. And when there's strife or there's struggle or there's something, then there's most likely an agreement that hasn't been clarified, or there's an expectation that's creeping in, or there's something that's not being spoken. And so again, just sort of going into what are our agreements moving forward? Who do we want to be for ourselves? Who do we want to be for each other? And what outcome, what's the preferred outcome that we want to kind of move towards, even when it does get down and dirty, or I fall off the wagon, or you fall off the wagon, or we both fall off the wagon? What are some things that we're going to agree on, moving forward? And those things are always shifting and evolving.
So Miriam,
Malcolm,
yes.
Sorry, Malcolm, can I come in? Because I'm a bit curious about you.
Okay.
Because you work, like, you call yourself a neuro coach, as far as I understand, yeah. And
yes.
I really liked Sadhu's answer about these conscious agreements. But as a neuro coach, I'm just curious, how would you answer your own question? Like, how would you work with people from your, like, we've been into energy and matching energy and negative energy and positive energy and this sort of thing. How would you work with people? And as far as like the agreements go, or do you even, is agreement something you would do?
Yes, agreements are very so important. But first, and the way I go about it is, you have to have an agreement with self first, right? And then that person has to have an agreement with their selves. Now, once you have an agreement, they have an agreement. Now you guys got to come together and may have an agreement, right? And you know what I'm saying? Because this disagreement is negative to one person, maybe very negative to one person, and creating a negative energy, which destroys. So, you know what I'm saying? You got to come to an understanding of this agreement, right? Of what the agreement is, and not taking from or giving somebody else more power. just the understanding that this is the agreement, right? This is our agreement for our relationship. Nobody else, it don't affect anybody else, right? Except for us. So this is our agreement for our relationship. And, you know, once you get to that point that you do that, then things, you know, you're able to communicate more, right? And if you're able to communicate more, then you're able to get more done in that relationship. So it all boils back down to having an understanding of who you are, them having an understanding of who they are, and then coming to an agreement as to who we are. Once we have an understanding of who we are, then we can have the conversation.
I think that's actually a really cool point. I was actually going to ask you what would be an example of an agreement with oneself, but and you're certainly welcome to answer that because I love listening to what you have to say. I noticed really getting excited about the we agreement, because I think a lot of people go into any kind of relationship without being conscious of agreements. And there are agreements there, but they don't actually speak them. They don't even know they're there.
Right.
But there are things happening, there are dynamics happening, and they're sort of these underlying unstated agreements, and bringing those up to the conscious surface. And then some people can be really surprised when those come up and they realize that, oh, that's not what I actually wanted at all. And right. I didn't even know that was happening. So, but I'm still curious about that. What kind of agreement would a person, for just an example, what kind of agreement would a person make with him or herself?
One, you would have to come to the agreement with self that, I didn't live the perfect life. And, I wasn't, I don't know everything. That's an agreement you got to make with yourself. I don't know everything, and I have to be open to learn. The other person may have the same type of thing, right? Because you was brought up, Miriam was brought up a certain kind of way in a certain type of environment. Malcolm was brought up in a certain, So my norms are not your norms. My belief system is not your belief system. So if we came together in a relationship, right? Yeah, I would expect you to know, right? You would expect me to know. And, we can't know, right? Because, you didn't grow up on Lewis Avenue. You know what I mean? I did. So, so it's the understanding for self as to who I am. Okay, this is who I am. This is what I believe. Okay, this is Miriam. She's from, where you from?
I'm originally from Canada, but I live in Norway.
Norway, right? She lives in Norway, right? And, that's just two different upbringings. So we have to have an agreement with self first, and then come together and say, okay, as this Mississippian, and Norwegian relationship, this is what we are. This is what we represent. This is what, this is what we stand for, right? And then once you get that, now that you can have the conversation, and most of that conversation end up being laughing at other people because they don't understand y'all. So,
can I go back to you, Sadhu?
Of course.
Because I really like this, Malcolm, that you brought up expectations.
Yeah.
And since, Sadhu, you were talking about your relationship with your wife and your kids, there's this whole thing about relationship agreements. Expectations, like my expecting the other person to know what I'm thinking, or know what I need, or know what I want, or my expectation about how the relationship is supposed to be. Like, did you guys say something about expectations? I don't want to limit anything. I'm just leaving it open.
Well, in my own personal journey, I'm actually kind of really learning a lot about myself, obviously, but I'm actually exploring kind of the transcendence of paradigms. And when I say paradigm, let's say perhaps it's a container of perspective or a container of awareness. And so, for instance, like expecting that maybe people that are in love will not have feelings for someone else. That's an expectation. Or if they do have feelings for someone else, that it's bad. I expect that things are going to melt down if, or, for many things in a relationship that I'm learning with my wife, that kind of I'm recognizing were sort of cultural paradigms or cultural conventions that are just sort of a given for lots of people. They were a given to me. And so I think exploring relationships in a conscious or intentional way. Everybody does their best. They're messy, you know. But if you take it for myself, like I've made a pact with myself. I'm on a path of learning and evolving, and so even if it's like horrible and things melt down and blow up in my face, I'm going to do my best to learn equally from that is considered bad or that is that which is considered good. How, you know, and I can consciously have a dialogue with myself or someone else, like, okay, this didn't feel good. I've avoided it for many years or 3 months or 2 days, or, you know, and it didn't feel comfortable. It didn't feel good for this and this and this. However, what am I learning from this that's enabling me to walk forward, you know, accessing more of my potential from this moment forward? And so that's just kind of a general rule of thumb I have for myself. Expectations, like I didn't expect life to be so fucking awesome. You know? I didn't expect that I would feel, I would learn that I would continue to kind of be broken open, you know, and just pounded by my own emotions. I didn't expect that as a 50-year-old plus guy, you know. But also I didn't expect like the levels of joy that are, you know, that are right on the other side of that stuff, you know. So I hope that answers your question.
That's a good point. Bobby,
Yeah.
you want to weigh in here?
A couple of things that have come up in the conversation here.
Let me get. Can you guys check the chat real quick, the private chat real quick, and then we'll get back into that. Go ahead, Bob.
First, I think it was Miriam that said that, you know, if we don't make our agreements consciously, agreements are going to be made. They're just not going to be made mindfully. And it's going to be just kind of what we sort of settle into by default. And I think that's very important for people to realize. Another thing that I've adopted as kind of a saying is that all problems exist in the absence of a good conversation. So when the conflict begins to come, hopefully that's a signal to both parties, or at least one of the parties, that there's a little something off track here, and there's an opportunity for us to discuss, to deepen our relationship, to learn about each other better. And the third thing is, I think one of the ways to ease stress in the relationship is exactly what this posse is all about: remaining present in the moment, recognizing what's going on. An awful lot of the worry and anxiety and angst and just the so-called negative emotions that we have are when our mind is thinking 12 or 13 or 14 chess moves off into the future, and we're worried about that. Sadhu brought it up with, you know, when you guys started to have kids, and, you know, all of a sudden that started triggering teenage year kind of coping mechanisms with one another. So as you can bring it back to the present, you tap into more resources, you tap into empathy and compassion, you open up the lines of communication between both parties or all parties involved, if we're talking about more of a, you know, a corporate or a business type scenario. And once again, a lot of those things kind of smooth themselves out, or at least put you in a position where you're in touch with greater, deeper resources and the ability to kind of think things through and decide what's the next step that we need to do right now, not necessarily worrying about what's the 12th or 13th or 15th step that we're going to be doing way on down the road.
Okay, so I mean, we've covered, you know, a little bit, you know, so here and there we've covered different areas when it comes to relationship, but, you know, saying we don't want to drag this out. We want to, you know, saying, you know, bring this to an end. So let's do this. Let's do it this way. Miriam, Sadhu, Bobby, right? We're going to give everybody at least 30 seconds, maybe 45 seconds to put out their last little bit about relationships. And hopefully get people to connect with you. Go ahead, Miriam.
Thank you. Every single moment affords me an opportunity to show up and step up. Every single moment. And I have a choice to make in every single moment, whether I run, whether I stay, whether I provoke and fight, or whatever I do. I liked what you said, Bobby, about the conversation. I call it dialogue. I can put my thoughts and my feelings and my sensations into words and share it and let people know what my moment is like, and then offer them the opportunity to meet me in that and respond to that in the way that they do, in the way that they need. And that affords me the opportunity to meet them where they are. And some people don't, and some people can't, and some people do. It's always a process. And every moment I have that choice. And I can train that choice. It may not happen right away, but I can practice expressing every moment. Who wants to go next? Thank you.
I don't know. Yeah, that was pretty good. I don't think I want to go next to do.
Thank you.
Well,
Go,
okay.
Sadhu.
This is the Presence Posse, and so I have a program that I take people through, and we go through the 6 keys of ultimate fulfillment and inevitable success. And the number one key of ultimate fulfillment in my worldview here is being present, because it's a gift that always gives, and there's no such thing as being too present. And so my kind of takeaway is that ask yourself if you can really lean into unconditional love and find out how it's going to uplift your life, and find out how it can uplift the life of everybody you touch, because it will. And so, on that note, I have a heart focus empowerment that I do for people. It's complimentary one-on-one. I'm happy to teach people and guide people through this heart-brain coherence so that you can do it on your own anytime you want. There's no meditation experience required. Anybody can do it, and anybody that does do it usually experiences very profound results. And so that's my offer and my invitation to you all out there in the public, and anyone, as you can join me for a heart focus empowerment, and that link will be in the comments apparently. Thanks, Bobby. Thanks, Miriam. Thanks, Malcolm. It's been an honor and a pleasure.
All right, Bobby.
Yeah, people will probably be familiar with the Cherokee parable of the 2 wolves that are inside of us. One is good and one is evil. And the little kid asks which one wins, and the elder says it's the one that we feed. And I have a little bit of a different take on that. I've noticed that we've got 2 voices inside of our head. We've got our inner critic, who very often talks to us in a way that we would never talk to another human being in the world. We can be so hard on ourselves so frequently, but we also have an inner guru. Wisdom speaks to us through the feelings and emotions and aha moments and flashes of insight that come to us. And the work that I do is helping people get in touch with their inner guru, with the guidance that is being presented to us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every single day of the year. And if any of this stuff has resonated with you, the easiest way to learn more about the work that I do is in my group on Facebook. It's called Our Mindful Life. I am currently about 3/4 of the way through a program called Spring Into Mindfulness. It's a free program. It delivers you a daily little bit of insight in some cases, a daily little bit of meditation in others, some techniques that you can use to deepen your grounding and your alignment, to keep you centered and keep you in the moment. So if you have an interest in exploring any of these matters more deeply, that's really the easiest way to explore the work that I'm doing. And it has been a thrill to be with all 4 of you, or all 3 of you guys. I love you all dearly, and it's real cool to be part of the posse. And cheers to everybody that tuned in.
Right.
Malcolm,
My thing
you
is,
talk about you.
yeah, I knew you was gonna do that. But anyway, you of all people, I knew
we're
you was
already
gonna
into
do
the
that.
hard coherence
anyway,
anticipation thing.
No, that's all, you know what I'm saying? Here's the thing about, my thing about this. When it comes to relationships, right? Before you start trying to have that deep relationship with someone else, you got to have a relationship with self, right? You got to have a relationship with your deity, whatever your deity is, whatever your God is. You got to have that relationship first and have an understanding with that relationship, because that relationship with your deity, with yourself, right? That's where the power is. That's where the direction is. That's where the intuition and all of this good stuff come into place, right? So, you know what I'm saying? But being present, here's the thing about most people. They're present for their families. They're present for their loved ones. They're present for their dog. They're present for, whatever, right? Santa Claus, whatever the case is, but they're not present for themselves. You got to be present for yourself, because if you're not present for yourself, then you actually being present for other people is a lie, right? It's a lie. It's a story you're telling. It's not the truth.
Yeah.
So you got to get to a point that you're being present for self in order to realize who you are and what power and what you can bring to the table. What can you really do for these people, if you can do anything for them other than. So once again, man, like I always say, man, what you focus on becomes what you focus on. You know what I'm saying? You got to focus on the things that you desire. You have to focus on the things that you desire. And what you focus on becomes your reality. And if you focus on your problems in your relationship, your problems in your marriage, your problems in your finance, your problem with your spirituality, if you focus on that stuff, then that stuff will remain your reality. But if you focus on a solution to the problems, then the solutions will become your reality. You have to focus on the solutions. Quit thinking about what's wrong, everything that's wrong, all the people that's wrong, all the things that's being said, people talking this and all that. Quit focusing on that. The Creator himself said in the Bible, in any book that you read, right? The Creator says, focus on the things in life, right? That are godly. Focus on love. Focus on the things that will make you smile. Don't focus on the things that make you frown, because they're going to keep making you frown. But anyway, that's my little spiel. Check it out, man. This is the posse. This is part of the posse. We still got some more members coming up. They're coming up next week. Don't know if I'm going to be a part of that, but if not, it's okay, right? The posse is here. We're here to stay. We're here to come and have these conversations. If any of these guys, including myself, said anything that resonated with you, make sure you reach out to them and get more, get more information about it. Get more into. All of us are outstanding coaches, right? We're just a little different. You know what I'm saying? Bobby's more of a, hey, look here, this is how this goes. You know what I'm talking about? Sadu's kind of, yeah, he'll be back. Sadu's kind of, you know what I'm saying? He's on that spiritual realm. And I love our posse because Miriam is like, I don't even want to talk about it. We'll talk about her after this is over. But anyway, you know what I'm talking about? But anyway, man, we hope you guys enjoyed the conversation, man. We'll be bringing this conversation to you. We're trying to bring it every Monday, just different subjects, whatever. I think next week they're still talking about relationships, other members of the posse. So we'll bringing that to you. So make sure you guys link up with us, you know what I'm saying, and get whatever information you can. All right, but check this out. This is the posse, part of the posse anyway. And we love each and every last one of y'all, right? See you guys next week, man. Peace.
Thanks, you guys. Thanks very much.
Everybody.
It's been wonderful to be with you.